how long can wicked people prosper? How long is it going to be before all of this darkness is going to be behind us? How long is it going to be before the wicked get what's coming to them? And, does God see? Does God care? It's this question that the book of Revelation addresses. God addresses the whole issue of when will the evil people get what's coming to them. He addresses it in the book of Revelation, and specifically in Revelation chapter 17 and 18. The harlot is the cabal, the responsible parties who influence kings and leaders in the world to do the kinds of things that they do, foment wars and destruction to bring about the evil and the suffering that we see in the world today. This present world system is going to be judged by God at the sixth trumpet. That is when the harlot, Mystery Babylon, the name of mystery, the woman of mystery, the system that has been operating behind the scenes to bring about the destruction of mankind. That is when the so-called princes and the rich men and the leaders of this world are going to get what's coming to them. Right now, the present world system, as I talked about in my last video, is being run by Satan, but through human proxies. Satan cannot operate or have dominion over the world apart from people. Mankind was given dominion over the earth, and Satan has to rule through someone. He can't do it by himself. So hence the temptation in the garden. He tempted Eve, and then through Eve got to Adam. At one point in time, the Watchers influenced mankind before the flood. But then the Watchers were placed in the pit, and Satan kind of had to revert back to using people again, mostly using people. And of course, he uses the demons, that is the spirits of the Nephilim, or the spirits of the giants who didn't end up anywhere. They just roamed the earth, and the demons, the spirits of those children of that forbidden union between angels, the sons of God, and human women, the offspring, the giants, their spirits still influence people on the earth today. Some of them are very powerful and very smart and can bring that kind of forbidden knowledge to people that they possess. The beast kingdom, however, when it comes in its final iteration during the end times, that is during this 42-month reign of the beast, when Satan is going to rule through his false son, that is when Satan's kingdom is not going to be operated through people anymore. It's going to be operated via fallen angels, his false son who's a hybrid, who's part, fallen angel Apollyon, and human people who lived before the flood, along with the Watchers and the giants, the Nephilim, all of those were very intelligent, highly technologically advanced. I don't think we've seen nothing yet. Okay, whatever they did in the past, they will do that and more during the end times. Any human who survives basically the first 5 seals and the first 6 trumpets is going to be considered basically cattle. They're going to be marked. You have to be marked if you want to be fed, if you want to engage in commerce or anything like that, if you want to buy and sell, if you want to be able to have anything, you're going to have to be marked by the beast. You are basically branded by him. You're his cattle. The ultimate goal will be to remove people from the face of the earth altogether and just make the earth the home of the fallen angels, Satan, the beast, hybrids. And that way, if they can claim this earth for themselves, they can theoretically avoid the lake of fire. So what's going to happen is the earth is going to go from being in the domain of people and being operated by people who have willingly said yes to Satan, to be inspired by fallen entities, and that is going to end at the 6th trumpet. All the destruction, the mayhem, the wars that have been fomented by Satan through people up through now is going to finally end. And then there's going to be this really short period of time, 42 months, where the beast will have his reign, and then Christ will return to the earth and set up his millennial kingdom. So Revelations chapters 17 and 18 talk about the relationship between the beast and the harlot, okay, the one who has been ruling and is continuing to rule up until she's destroyed. This relationship between the beast and the harlot is not a good one. A lot of people teach, and they seem to think that when you see the harlot riding the scarlet beast, that somehow or another they have this very happy relationship where the harlot is going to rule along with the beast, and the harlot's going to usher in the one world religion and the sort of the one world order, and the beast is going to reign over all of that, and there's this kind of happy little relationship between the beast and the harlot. Actually, nothing could be further from the truth. The harlot doesn't mind the beast, but she wants to run the show just the way she's been doing it all along, which is basically she controls the kings, not they her. And the seventh king is going to be a king that the harlot wants to control, just like she's always done before. And she has no idea that that is not the plan for the seventh king. The beast the scarlet beast does not want to cooperate with the plan that the harlot has for him. The harlot is symbolically associated with the city Babel or Babylon, and it means the same thing. It's the gate of God, whether it's Babel or Babylon. And if we go back to the very first incidents of Babel or Babylon, that's the city with the tower. That Nimrod, who was the first Antichrist, the first one who became a giant, okay, who became a Gibborim, a mighty man against the Lord. He's the first Antichrist type. He's the one who actually set up this kingdom. But then when we read about the city of Babel in Revelation chapter 11, we don't read about Nimrod. We read about a cabal who wants to build a city and a tower to basically increase their fame and their name, to and so that they don't, perish from the earth. They want to be separate, they want to be special, and they want to control everything. This cabal has continued on throughout history, whether it's posed as, the Catholic Church, or whether it took the shape of, some kind of other secret society or something like that. In any case, it has been morphed and done what it needed to do to keep control over the kings of the earth. Revelation chapter 17 and 18 talk about how the way the world is run right now, how it's going to change between being run by Satan through people, and how it's going to be become a kingdom that's ruled by a hybrid, by his son, who is the beast, who's indwelt by Apollyon. It's basically an animalistic, non-human, demonic, satanic, totally given over, depraved society that's going to come into being during this end times. Okay, during that last 42-month reign of the beast. And the harlot has nothing to do with the beast kingdom ruling with him, or anything like that. And so Revelation 17 is really the backstory for what we've already learned about the destruction of the harlot from Revelation chapters 11 and 13. Primarily, those are the main chapters that kind of talk about the relationship between the beast and the harlot. And then we also have looked at the word hour, which, if you follow the word hour through the book of Revelation, you will see that hour is the sixth trumpet when the harlot is destroyed. Now, in Revelation, the harlot, not the beast, is the big deal. The harlot is the one that is the focal point here, and the focus, where everybody wants to focus on the beast and who's the Antichrist and all of that. The focus of Revelation is on the harlot and what she has done, what she is doing, and how eventually Satan is going to divest himself of her in favor of his son. So the first point I want to make is this: the harlot and the beast will not be partners during the reign of the beast. They are not going to be partners working together. The false prophet is not a part of the harlot. There is nothing about the beast system that wants to incorporate the harlot or the Babylon system. And the harlot system will be destroyed and must be destroyed because it's human based, and Satan wants something different for his kingdom. Right now he rules by proxy through people. Eventually he'll rule more or less directly through his son, who is the Antichrist, the beast. So there is going to be a catastrophic regime change between the harlot and the beast. Catastrophic at the sixth trumpet. Catastrophic. Huge. Where the harlot basically did a bloodbath over here of believers, the beast is going to do a bloodbath involving anyone who is a part of the harlot or the harlot system. Okay, a third of whoever is left is going to die and be killed in that single hour on a single day that's predetermined by God. So let's take a look at Revelation 17, see what it says. Then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and said to me, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who is seated on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality, and with the wine of whose sexual immorality the dwellers on earth have become drunk." And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. Okay, remember, Revelation is written in code. Okay, symbols are the code. You have to decode the symbols. The symbols are decoded in other places in the Bible. Okay, so the symbols have to be decoded, and then we can understand the story. All right. So the 7 angels who had 7 bowls, which we read about that in Revelation 16, they poured out the bowls of wrath. Okay, the bowls of wrath right over here. And then the angels basically wants to go back to this event right here, the 6th trumpet, and say, "I'm going to show you about that. I'm going to tell you about that, what's happening with her." Okay, it's interesting. The angel doesn't say, "Hey, let's talk about the beast some more, and let's, about his kingdom and how all that's going to play out." No, he goes back to the harlot. We're going to go back and we're going to talk about that. So the 7 angels with the bowls poured out the wrath of God. Okay, and that's in Revelation 16. And then in Revelation chapter 19, we read about basically the second coming of Christ when the heavens are opened and he comes out wearing many crowns and he's on a horse and basically, kills everybody and throws the beast and the false prophet into the lake of fire. Revelation 19. In between 16 and 19 are 2 chapters, 17 and 18, that talk about the harlot, because the harlot's the important one in Revelation, and the angel, one of the angels who had the 7 bowls, is saying, we're going to go look at that some more. I want to explain to you about the harlot. Okay, chronologically speaking, the destruction of the harlot took place before the bowls of wrath. Okay, it took place here, 3.5 years before. So what the angel is doing is saying, hey, we're going to go back in time because I want to show you a little bit more about what's happening at the 6th trumpet, a little bit more about what the deal is between the harlot and the beast, and how the regime change gets transferred, how this regime of the harlot is going to be transferred over to the beast. Now, in Revelation, there's only 4 main judgments. Okay, only 4, or main times of judgment. And this is going to be spelled out in more detail in Revelation 19. But because the angel said this, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who is seated on many waters." That's the goal. That's the focal point of 17, of Revelation 17, is the judgment of the prostitute, the judgment of the harlot. So I'm looking at this word judgment. A lot of people, and I used to do this myself until I realized it was wrong, there's only 4 main times of judgment, and we're going to read about this in Revelation 19. The first one is right here, the sixth trumpet, the judgment of the harlot. The second one will be when the harlot is judged a second time, okay, the final judgment. Because remember, there's in Revelation 9 talks about how there were some people who survived, who didn't give up the worship of demons and idols and their violence and murders and so on. That is, they're going to continue through, sort of as a little subcategory here during the reign of the beast, not totally eliminated, but they will be eliminated at the seventh bowl. And then that's the second judgment of the harlot. She'll be judged twice. And then the judgment of the beast kingdom during the bowls of wrath. Okay, so first judgment of the harlot, second judgment of the harlot, the judgment of the beast and the beast kingdom, which is what the wrath of God is on. It's on the beast and the beast kingdom. And then the very final judgment will be at the great white throne judgment. Okay, that's the fourth one. And a lot of people will say, well, there's 21 judgments in Revelation. There's 7 seals, there's 7 trumpets, and there's 7 bowls. They call each one of those a judgment, saying that God is pouring out his wrath every time one of these things comes around. All you have to do, though, is look at the 5th seal, for example. The 5th seal is martyrs. Okay, this is not a judgment. God is not judging martyrs. These are people who are dying for the sake of Christ. The seals 1 through 5 are the work of the harlot. They are the work of Satan through the harlot, and as well as the bringing on of the man of sin on the world stage as the rider on the white horse. So there's not 21 judgments. There's basically 4 times when God's wrath or his final execution of judgment, that is, that final sentence, is carried out. Or verse 1, come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who is seated on many waters. Okay, here we see that the harlot or the prostitute is seated on many waters. Later on in the chapter, we're going to read that the waters are peoples, multitudes, nations, and languages. Okay, it's not one city, it's the whole world. There are nations, multitudes, peoples, and languages. That's the meaning of the waters here. Verse 2, with whom the kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality, and with the wine of whose sexual immorality the dwellers on earth have become drunk. Okay, I want to point out a couple things here. First, the kings of the earth have aligned themselves with the harlot. The harlot is able to provide control, to provide riches, wealth, power, whatever, to the kings of the earth, and they are willing to subject themselves to her to achieve those ends. And when we read about the harlot decked in purple and scarlet and a cup of gold and all of that, we understand that the harlot has tons of wealth with which to dispense to the kings of the earth. That's how she keeps them in her employ, or how she keeps them connected to her. Anytime we're looking to someone other than God for our supply or for our increase or for our identity, that we're being untrue to the Lord. And these kings are really being untrue to the Lord. And we're not talking about like sexual immorality in the sense of actual physical immorality. This is all spiritual. Okay, this is spiritual immorality. It has to do with people's souls and spirits. And it says, the wine of whose sexual immorality the dwellers on earth have become drunk. Okay, in Revelation, there is a distinction made between the dwellers on earth, or those who dwell on earth, and those who dwell in heaven. You can be a heaven dweller who's on the earth. If you're a heaven dweller, it means that your identity is with God in heaven. You're a believer. If you're an earth dweller, what it means is that you've set your affections on things here and that you're working for things on earth. And that's, pretty much your goal. And an earth dweller is not a Christian. An earth dweller is someone who is basically unsaved. It doesn't mean every single person on earth, because some people who live on earth are actually heaven dwellers. They're destiny is to be with the Lord. So we're not talking about physical fornication. We're talking about spiritual. So the harlot controls the kings of the earth, and then the kings of the earth then transfer that harlot energy to the earth dwellers, who then carry out the plan. The kings of the earth find the harlot useful to achieving their goals, and they have no idea, or maybe they do, that they're selling their soul when they buy into this system that Satan is in control of behind the scenes. Verse 3, and he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. So next, John is being transported. He is carried away in the spirit into a wilderness. Okay, before, the woman was seated on many waters and representing kings and nations and people and tongues and so on. That is, that she controls all of that. And the next thing you see is she is seated on a scarlet beast in a wilderness. Okay, this is a totally different scene, and it has to do with the passage of time. That when the beast comes on the scene, and I believe that's the rider on the white horse, the 7th king that we're going to learn about in this chapter, that just like the harlot was seated on the other kings throughout history, she's going to plop herself right down on this last king and want to control him too, the scarlet beast. This isn't the first time that John has been in the spirit. He's carried away in the spirit. In Revelation chapter 1, we read about how he was in the spirit on the Lord's day, and that's when the whole vision of Christ and the command to write down everything that he was going to see and hear, that's when it came to him, was when he was in the spirit. And here, now he's carried away in the spirit. I think we're being given a clue that John is transcending space and time, that he can move backward and forward through time and through space. And John is being carried in the spirit to be able to see how all of this happened. So he's going back. He's going back to basically when that first seal is going to be opened and the rider on the white horse comes out and he's given a crown. John is being taken all the way back. Now it's the story of the relationship between this king and the harlot. What about the wilderness? What is that all about? Before, she was seated on many waters. The many waters are peoples, tongues, nations, and so on. What's the wilderness? Spiritually speaking, the wilderness is considered the habitation of demons. It's where devils and foul spirits and those things that are opposed to God live. The wilderness is where Jesus went to be tempted by Satan. And it's the place, the waterless places are where the demons go after they've been cast out of somebody. And in this passage, the woman is riding the beast in a wilderness. Okay, what this means is she is in a place that is filled with demons, satanically controlled entities, demonic entities, dark spiritual forces. And this says a lot about who is controlling the woman, who is controlling the harlot. Okay, she is being controlled too. Not only is she controlling kings, but something else is controlling her, and that would be Satan and demons, fallen angels, fallen entities. Okay, and I've talked a bit about how the demons are present on earth. They've been present on earth since the time of the flood. They don't have a home except for people. And when they're not indwelling people or pigs, they are wandering around looking for a body to inhabit. When we see the description of the scarlet beast has 7 heads and 10 horns. It's full of blasphemous names, which connects it with the dragon. Okay, so we know that this beast and the dragon have something in common. They're alike in some ways. And Revelation 12:3 says, another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads 7 diadems. Now the scarlet beast does not have crowns on any of its heads, doesn't have crowns on any of its horns, which means it basically doesn't have any power particularly. And when the woman is riding the beast, it's obvious that she's the one who's in control. Later on, when we see the beast rise from the sea, that is, the beast is coming back from the dead, there's going to be crowns on the 10 horns, which represent the 10 kings. They're going to be having authority at that time. And then we know that the dragon is going to give all his power, throne, and great authority to the beast. The dragon doesn't have any crowns on his horns, but he does have crowns on his 7 heads, and those will be given to the beast. Verse 4, the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality. And on her forehead was written a name of mystery, Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and of the earth's abominations. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. So this woman is being represented as a harlot, as a prostitute, someone who sells her favors, and she's supremely wealthy and powerful, and she's bloodthirsty too, especially for God's people, and especially those who believe in Jesus during the end times. We know that the beast from the sea, that is this guy here who's going to reign during the end times, we know that he's going to kill believers too. But he is never said to be drunk with the blood of the saints. It's the harlot who will kill multitudes and multitudes of people before the beast even begins to reign. The immorality of the harlot, like I've said before, is spiritual. We're not talking about physical immorality, just like with the 144,000. They are not physical virgins, they are spiritual virgins in that they love Jesus, okay, and they believe in him and they walk with him. They are not a part of what, the defilement that happens with the harlot. So just like the 144,000 have God's name sealed on their forehead and then later written on their forehead, this woman has an identity written on her forehead too, and it's a mysterious name. It's a name of mystery. Okay, whenever you see a mystery though in the Bible, it can mean one of two things. Something that has been secret or can't be told. It's like, you can't say what it is. It's something that's hidden, or it's something that's hidden and it's now revealed. And I think that the name of mystery here is both of those things. The woman has been hidden behind the scenes, basically pulling the strings from some dark closet somewhere. But now she has come out into the open, not only in the world today, but also from the book of Revelation. It's being revealed to us who she is. We understand that she's tied to this first city that is recorded in the Bible, the city of Nimrod. So we know that it was the city of Babel that these people wanted to congregate together and build a city and make a name for themselves. They refused to spread out over the earth like God had commanded them to do. And in the end, God did not judge them particularly. He mitigated the problem by confusing the languages. And so people spread out over the whole earth, but they took Babel with them. They took the whole concept and the ideas and the system and the hierarchy and the values of Babel were spread out over the whole earth. That's how Babylon is over the whole world. It's over kings and nations and peoples and languages. Okay, that's Babel. That's Mystery Babylon. It's this spread, this influence that's behind everything in the world that we see today. Eventually, God will judge that city, but he's letting it grow. Remember, there's this parable of the tree that Jesus talked about, how this actually it was a little seed that was put in the ground and it grew up into a big, oversized tree, and the birds of the air made their nests in the branches. This little mustard seed that got too big. That's like Babel. It got too big. And the birds of the air are demons and foul spirits that basically live in this system that got too big for its britches. Next verse. When I saw her, I marveled greatly, but the angel said to me, "Why do you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns that carries her." Okay, so this is the revelation of who that woman is and who is the beast. The beast that you saw was and is not, and is about to rise from the bottomless pit and go to destruction. Who does that remind you of? Who do you think of when I read that? You should be thinking of Apollyon. Apollyon was, and then he was not. That is, he disappeared. He went into the bottomless pit. He's going to ascend from the bottomless pit and end up in perdition, the lake of fire. Okay, he was, he is not, and is about to rise from the bottomless pit and go to destruction. And the dwellers on earth, that is, people whose hearts and affections are here, whose names have not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, will marvel to see the beast, because it was and is not and is to come. Now remember, when the beast rose from the dead over here, the people marveled and they said, who's like the beast? Who can war against him? We know we're talking about this entity right here that we've already talked about when we did the Bible study on Revelation 11 and Revelation 13. We know that the beast is going to be a hybrid entity of the one who was and is not, and ascends from the bottomless pit and goes to perdition. So the first aspect that we're talking about is the demonic or fallen angel aspect of the beast. Okay, now we know the other part is a man, because that's what the Bible tells us, that the beast has the number of a man. It's 666. Verse 9 of Revelation 17. This calls for a mind of wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. Okay, and these mountains represent empires, and that this woman has controlled various empires throughout time. They are also 7 kings, 5 of which have fallen. One is, and the other is not yet come. And when it comes, it will remain only a little while. So these 7 mountains are also 7 kings. Okay, this is the important thing. People want to talk about the 7 mountains being Rome or being this city or that city or whatever. The 7 mountains are 7 kings. That's what it says right here. So 5 have fallen. One is, that the one that is was at the time of John, that whoever was the Roman king at that time, the Roman emperor. But there is another one who is yet to come, and actually there's 2. But the 7th one and the 8th one are going to be basically the same person, but not the same person. Verse 10, so there are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen. One is, the other has not yet come. And when he does come, he must remain only a little while. So we're talking about a he here. He will remain only a little while. He comes. We're not talking about an empire. So this is not about an empire that was dead in the past and now has been revived. This is a person. Okay, this is a king who is coming. And he's only here a little while. That would be the rider on the white horse, who, if he is the 7th king, he's only going to be here just a few months before he is killed and then comes back as the 8th king. We read about that in verse 11. As for the beast that was and is not, it is an 8th. That is, the king is also a beast. The king is the scarlet beast. The 7th king and the scarlet beast are the same. The beast that was and is not is an 8th, but it belongs to the 7 and goes to destruction. Okay, we'll go to the same place that the one who ascended from the bottomless pit is going to go to. So this is a person who was, and then he dies, and then he comes back as the 8th king. The 7th king, who is the scarlet beast, dies, comes back as the 8th king, and then will go to perdition when Christ returns. Many Bible scholars make the focus of this the mountains and the kingdoms and the 7 hills and all of that, but the focus is on a man. It's on a king. It's on someone who is only going to be here for a little while, who's going to die and come back as the 8th king. And he's the scarlet beast, who will come back as the beast from the sea, the beast who rises from the sea of death. Verse 12. And the 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings, who have not yet received royal power. But they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour together with the beast. These are of one mind, and they hand over their power and authority to the beast. Okay, this 1 hour that they're going to have authority with the beast is that hour that they're going to work together to destroy the harlot. We also know that the 10 kings will be in existence along with the beast when Christ returns, because that's what it says here. They will make war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them, for he is the Lord of lords and the King of kings, and those who are with him are called chosen and faithful. So this hour that the 10 kings have authority with the beast is the same hour that we read about in Revelation 9:15. So the 4 angels who had been prepared for the hour, the day, the month, and the year were released to kill a third of mankind. We also read about this in Revelation 3:10. Because you have kept my word about patient endurance, I will keep you from the hour of trial. This is not a figurative hour. This is the hour of trial that comes on the whole world to try those who dwell on earth, that is, the earth dwellers. And when the 2 witnesses ascend in Revelation 11:13, and at that hour there was a great earthquake, and 1/10 of the city fell. And in Revelation 14:7, when the angels warn about taking the mark of the beast, they say this, and he said with a loud voice, fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come. That is the hour when Babylon is destroyed. And then the second angel says, fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. That Babylon has fallen. The 10 kings have the same agenda as the beast, and they will allow him to use their authority to war against Christ, and they will also use their authority to destroy the harlot. The 10 kings and the beast hate the harlot, and they burn her with fire. The harlot and the beast are not cooperative. Okay, the harlot likes to think she's in control because she's always been in control of the kings of the earth. But this is the one time when that is not going to work. Verse 15, and the angel said to me, the waters that you saw where the prostitute is seated are peoples and multitudes and nations and languages. And the 10 horns that you saw, they and the beast will hate the prostitute. They will make her desolate and naked and devour her flesh and burn her up with fire. And remember in Revelation chapter 9, the destruction of the harlot, these, the 200 million man army, plus the 4 angels from the river Euphrates, plus the beast and the 10 kings here, they destroy her with fire, smoke, and sulfur. For God has put it into their hearts to carry out his purpose by being of one mind and handing over their royal power to the beast until the words of God are fulfilled. This was God's plan for how to destroy the harlot. And he is going to use Satan, the beast, and the 10 kings to do it. How's that for a comeuppance? And the woman that you saw is the great city that has dominion over the kings of the earth. Okay, so the kings of the earth, okay, that's the nations. But over the nations and over the kings is this city, Babylon, who has for centuries had dominion and control over the kings of the earth. Right now, the harlot controls the world, the kings of the earth. The harlot is actually coming out of hiding. It's coming out into the open. We can actually see, and we can actually know their agenda because they're telling it to us. The plan is coming out into the open now. It's not a secret anymore. There will be a very brief association, I suppose, between the king and the harlot. And the harlot will think that she's good, that she's used to controlling kings. She's used to controlling the world situation. And when this new king comes on the scene, she's going to do the same thing with whoever that person is. The scarlet beast is going to die. It's going to come back as the 8th king. And the beast who ascends from the bottomless pit, Apollyon, is going to indwell the beast who is the eighth king, who was among the seven, but becomes the eighth king. And we know of him as the Antichrist, or the beast from the sea. Before the harlot is destroyed, though, she is going to make it her goal to kill as many Christians as she possibly can. And we're sort of gearing up for that right now in our world today. Christians are not favored. The values and morals of Christians are not something that people even agree with anymore. Okay, it's considered to be hate speech, or it's considered wrong to have a biblical worldview, to have faith, to believe in Jesus or the Bible. And actually, you can be considered a terrorist or a crazy person if you even think like that. She's going to make it her goal to kill as many believers as possible. So, as I've pointed out before, the great city that has dominion over the kings of the earth is not really a city. It's not New York. It's not Jerusalem. It's not Rome. It's a bigger city. It's a mystical city. It's a symbolic city. It's the city of Babel that, when she spread out over the whole earth, took control over all the kings of the earth. And she is going to be destroyed. So, the question that people have asked is, when are the wicked going to get their comeuppance? When will they be judged? What about the people who plan and plot all the terrible things that we see? When are they going to be destroyed? And when is this whole system that they operate under going to come to an end? Well, the Bible tells us it's right here. That's the good news. It's right here. There is an end in sight when that will be over. And then there is only 42 months after that, when basically it'll be hell on earth. All the fallen entities will be here for 42 months and will systematically be eliminating the image of God in humanity, and until finally the image of God is sort of defaced or erased from the earth. That would be their plan, if possible. That is not going to happen. Christ is going to intervene sometime along the way here. The wrath of God will be poured out. Before that happens, those people who survive that period of time, actually the survivors of all of this, anyone who is a believer and survives the persecution of the harlot and the seals and the trumpets, and actually happens to still be alive during the time of the reign of the beast, they will be taken into heaven before the wrath of God is poured out with the 7 bowls of wrath. So that's Revelation 17. Very interesting chapter. I think it's fascinating. We learn a lot about the harlot. We're going to learn a little bit more about her, and there's also going to be something new that we're going to be putting on our timeline when we talk about Revelation chapter 18. So I hope you'll stick with me till then. Leave a comment, and until the next video, I pray you'll have a very, very blessed day.